Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Wherever you are in the world, welcome and thank you for joining us. We are live at AutoSens Brussels 2023 from the surrounded by the history of the automobile while simultaneously embracing its future. We are thrilled to conduct our latest edition of AutoVision News live at AutoSens, where we talk with some of the leading minds in ADAS and autonomous vehicle technology development from inside the warm and nostalgic embrace of this incredible venue. Returning to our broadcast series, he was with us in Detroit just a few months ago in May. Joining us now is Frank Schirrmeister, Vice President of Solutions and Business Development at Arteris IP. Frank leads activities in the automotive, enterprise and computing, communications, consumer, and industry verticals, alongside technology horizontals, artificial intelligence, machine learning, safety, and hardware and software. Frank, good to see you again. Welcome back to AutoSens.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Tell us about Arteris. Provide us an overview of the work you do and tell us a little bit about the company.
Sure. So I'll focus the products we have at Arteris in the industry domains, as you had said in the intro. So automotive is one of them. So this is like amazing to be in this history setting of historic cars. Arteris as a company is dealing with three areas of products. The first one is SoC integration automation. So we help people to assemble their chips, keeping the top level structure straight, if you will. So that's a part of the development process. It's based on technologies like IPXAct. And then it's all about register, like the way the chips are programmed. We maintain a golden source of truth for the designer during the development process. The thing which is probably more relevant here is the semiconductor IP, and the main bit there are the networks on chips. That's also where the name of Arteris comes from. So if you think of here, it's all about sensing at AutoSens. If you think about our eyes, our noses as the radar, LiDAR, all those bits, you think about the ARM processor, RISC-V, or Intel as the heart, and then you have, I don't know, an AI processor block that's your liver or kidney, what have you. We are the arteries, the binding element that transmits everything in between all the data. So if you look at us as a provider, if you look at the design chain, AutoSens is fascinating because we're kind of a foundational element of the design chain with our networks on chips, together with other players. You have up there ARM, Cadence, Synopsys with their building block products. That goes into chips. You have onsemi, NXP here going. That goes into systems. That's kind of the Bosches, the tier ones. And that goes eventually into the cars, and then we buy the car, right? So and there's a picture from Detroit where I'm doing this. We are like looking up the design chain, but we are foundational element bringing all of this together, and we license those building blocks for chip developers to build their semiconductor components.
Right. I want to pick your brain on network on chips for automotive. I thought of something else, so I wanted to ask you. Data volumes, and I know we talked about this over email prior. Data volumes, when we hear data volumes in automotive, one, what does it mean? But two, more importantly, why should we be aware of it? What's the significance?
Well, the end user sees it more in the context of ADAS and what the user has done with the car. So for example, my car sends me sometimes little love notes saying, oh, you drove from here to there, right? Kind of like your Uber rides, right? So that's kind of the data of usage that is stored, and there's tremendous volume of data, to be expected. It's terabytes of data, and that's used for things like diagnostics throughout the lifetime. When we think as Arteris about data, we touch it more behind the scenes from a user perspective. So again, going to the eyes, the nose, the ears, radar, LiDAR, thermal, all these produce data. And these data needs to be transported to be computed. One of the big topics here at the conference was sensor fusion, right? Where do you actually bring the camera data, the LiDAR data, the radar data together to then act on whether I see a motorcycle or a pedestrian or another object in front of me. We at Arteris, we touch all those data as we are transferring them using standard protocols like AMBER AXI or AMBER CHI. There are other standards like OCP and so forth.
Sure.
Transferring them on chip and then between the chips. So this is a big topic here. Tomorrow will be chiplets. Like, how are the architectures in the car evolving, and how do we actually build those designs that go into the cars?
What is the role then, now to network on chips? What is the role of network on chips for automotive?
Well, we take all that data. You have all the sensors producing data streams. So those are typically measured in gigabits per second and so forth. We transport them, bring them to the compute units. The compute units do with them, interact with the memory. So we see all the data. So that has impacts on things like safety and security. And I think we'll talk also a little bit about the architecture changes as they will come along over the next years.
Yeah, the safety and security. We had this conversation in Detroit. I want to go back to it, Frank, because it's important. Is there a relationship between safety and security? And if so, what is that relationship?
Well, we always say there's no security without safety, because you can break in, and it's vice versa as well. Without security, there's no safety, right? So the connection between the two is quite interlinked. They manifest themselves in having to follow different types of standards. Right? So safety is ISO 26262. You have different standards for cybersecurity. There's a track going on right now. But we are an interesting foundational technology where safety and security play, because our networks on chips, for example, need to be ASIL certifiable. That's how we call it. And in that context, users will then also build in security mechanisms. So we'll be part of the hardware security modules that find themselves on chips. So we have capabilities to separate different channels on the chip, and that's where security plays a big role as well.
We mentioned architecture, so let's go there now. When it comes to architecture, what is the impact of architecture evolution on data management and network on chips? Or asked another way, as architectures change and evolve, what are the key considerations for data management and network on chips?
Well, from a network on chip perspective, and then where the data is stored, all the memories, the storage in the past, the question becomes, where do you do compute? And there's a lot of debate going on. So when you get your image data into a camera or your thermal data into a camera, you can decide to take all the data raw and transfer them throughout the car through some compute units, right? And the big question right now is more distributed architectures today. We are talking about zonal, body zonal first, and then zonal architectures, eventually central compute. Depending on where the compute and the storage happens, which is typically an OEM decision, basically deciding I have these 8 cameras and four LiDARs and a couple of thermal cameras. What do I do with this data? Do I store it locally, or do I make decisions about objects I see early on, much closer to the sensor? So those are the going on right now for us from a network on chip perspective and the data management perspective. We then follow essentially the lead of what the OEM specifies, again, going down the design chain, basically saying, I need these 7 channels all come together in a central compute unit. The gentleman from BMW this morning in the keynote had a great set of charts on that, where the different sensors all get collected, and then you have some compute along the path, because you don't want to create too big data volumes that consumes more power. And then you want to have a central compute unit doing the actual decision. So over the next couple of years, that will be very interesting how the architecture evolves, and the networks on chips will follow that, and then enable it also between the different chips, and also die to die, the whole chiplet discussion as it is going on here during the conference.
Frank, it's always a pleasure having you. We've been asking all of our guests what their favorite car is. I have a feeling it might be the Miata with your daughter that you're working on, but what is your favorite car and why?
Well, it's really the Miata. So my daughter and I, they're these, when you watch the movie Cars, there are these two really cute cars that cheer on the main character. They're big fans, and they're two Miatas.
Yeah.
And my daughter really wanted to learn stick shift. So what did I do? I found a 97 MX-5 Miata, the last one, which has a cool pop-ups,
Yes.
pop-up light, and yeah, we did a bunch of stuff. We exchanged the top, and there are things. So there are things I do, things I don't. So I didn't quite. I didn't quite deal with the timing belt. I had somebody else doing that. But it's a great father-daughter thing to do, and we'll use it on highway number 1 or basically through the mountains in Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
So it's fun. It's a great car. And I saw number 26, VIN number 26 is standing up there in blue, a 1998 Miata. So it's a cool little car.
Yeah, the blue Miata in Brussels, as we have referred to it, it's one of my favorite cars here, and just one of my favorite cars in general. Just a small rear drive sports car.
It's very cute car. Yeah, absolutely. And it was a great vehicle to teach my daughter stick shift. So now it's basically safe from being ever stolen, because the number of people in California being able to drive stick shift is kind of very limited. So it's at least in her age range.
Well,
so,
we talk about safe and secure. So
that's right.
So
And the only electronics in it at this point is the radio.
Right.
Like I'm sure there's more, but it's like the only electronics you see is basically the radio in there. So that's a cool little car.
Frank, it's always a pleasure to have you on. Always a microphone here for you. Anytime we have an event like this at AutoSens.
Thank you.
Give your daughter your best from all of us. Enjoy the Miata. Enjoy the rest of the show. Safe travels home. Let's do this again sometime. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
More to come as we continue with AutoVision News live at AutoSens Brussels 2023. From the Auto World Museum, alongside Frank Schirrmeister, I'm Carl Anthony, AutoVision News.